Welcome. This video is just real quick to remind you that when we created parts in Inventor at the very beginning of the part file, and you said start new sketch at the very beginning, we were presented with the origin planes, planes at the origin, the XY, the XZ, and the YZ, or XY, listed in the wrong order, but those planes stay with the part file. Okay, so while you don't see them as you're building the part, right? The visibility is basically turned off. They're still there. So I'm in an assembly file right now, and I have two parts. Okay, so each of these parts has a little triangle next to it where you can expand it. And something that's true for both of them is that when they were built in their part files, okay, they had their own origins planes relative to how they were built. And so you can see these planes are in a different location than under this origin menu, these. Well, we just want you to be aware that these are still there, and they are planes that you can reference. So you can actually come in here and, let's see, I'm going to right click and turn the visibility on. That's a vertical plane kind of splitting that part right in the middle. And I could do the same thing for this other piece. This is like a little socket connector in here. And let's see, there's that one. Okay. And those work planes or those origin planes can be used as you are creating constraints. So if I go to constrain and say like a mate or flush, I can choose these two planes to help create those relationships. Okay, now this looks like it's moving all around, but remember that's the isometric view. If I go back to my front view, I'll see that I can't move right and left anymore. I did create a constraint where those two planes have to stay lined up. Okay, so that's it basically. We just wanted you to see that you can expand a part inside an assembly, and you can drill back down to how that part was built relative to the origin and those planes for the X, Y, and Z axes. And those planes, the visibility can be turned on by right-clicking and checking or unchecking visibility. And then you can use those kind of like a surface of the part, but you can use those. And the model will stay, that's relative and kind of locked to that part. So the model will move as one of those origins points, or that plane from the origin moves. So that's a pretty nice little trick. Sometimes you find yourself trying to assemble things that are hard, and you can do that. Now, if the planes, I'll mention one more thing. If those planes don't line up exactly the way you wanted them to, well, that's okay too. You can always remember. Let me kind of go back to that flush. You can always use an offset. Okay, and that's what that is. I can right click on this and say edit and bring the menu back up. But you could intentionally, as long as the planes are parallel, you could offset them to control the correct distance that these two planes would be offset. Again, they'd have to be parallel planes. Okay, if we're using like a mate or flush, where we've got to start getting into some of these others. This is an angled constraint. But if you can pick out two planes that are going to be at least parallel, even if they're not perfectly flushed, like I said, you can choose them, and you can use the offset if you know the correct distances. Okay, so keep that in mind in your back pocket as a tool. I have found that very handy before as I've been trying to do some assemblies, and it was hard to pick the contours or the things to create the right constraints. And somebody reminded me, hey, you can go back and just use the origins. Those are always there. And that's helped me more than once. So keep that in mind and give it a shot sometime.